Now, time and time again, I've pointed out on YouTube that Shaka Now is a hypocrite. He is the worst excuse for a Christian I've ever seen. He is arrogant. He cares more about himself than he does other people or his ministry. He doesn't act like Jesus at all. And on top of that, he's so needing to pick on other people and feel better than other people to get over his own insecurities that he needs to take me out of context to try to prove points about Wicca and paganism. Now, recently he illegally stole some audio from a radio show that I did earlier this year on Jack Winters and Debbie Mystic Blue 1212's radio show called A Wiccan and a Satanist. And although, I don't really speak to Jack anymore, and I haven't spoken to Debbie, but I'm still on, somewhat friendly terms with her, I don't think that Saunders bothered to ask Jack or Debbie for permission to use that audio. So, there's stealing. That's another commandment broken. And of course, then he took me out of context and lied about what I said. He paraphrased saying that basically that pagans all have sex orgies and do sacrifices, when the whole point of my discussion was to point out that there are many different pagan practices that go from the mundane to the not so mundane, and that some pagans do practice orgies, some minority of pagans do animal sacrifices. They don't do human sacrifices. I've never seen that in anything that I've sat in on or watched or anything like that. But that those are minority practices, and that most pagans don't practice sex during ritual. Most pagans don't do animal sacrifices. But we should understand what the meanings of those practices are, so that we don't judge them like Christians judge them. And see, this is the problem with people like Shaka Now. He takes and distorts Christianity so that he can judge and be a bigot. Most Christians aren't like him. Most Christians understand that Jesus loved everyone. But Shaka Now doesn't want to love. He wants to hate and demean to make himself feel better. That's the way people like him are. They have to hate somebody so they can feel superior. That's how bigots work. So when it comes to Shaka Now and, his theft of the audio and then his bearing false witness about it, just show even further that people like Shaka Now are pieces of shit and shouldn't be taken seriously as Christians. And if you take him seriously as a Christian, I challenge you to tell me why. Because, quite honestly, he's the biggest oxymoron I've ever seen. Besides all that, let's look at what he's trying to do when it comes to, for example, sex. Now, there's really not a whole lot of talk about premarital sex being bad in the Bible. There really isn't. It was a cultural idea, but at the same time, God said, "Go forth and multiply." Basically, there was some talk about adultery and stuff like that. But let's think about what adultery actually is, and realize that it's not what many people who are Christians try to make it out to be, which is any sexual thought. That's not exactly what adultery is. Adultery is a betrayal, and it's always been considered a betrayal. If you're talking about sex and lust, that's fornication. But really, God said, "Go forth and multiply." He was pro-sex, and so this whole idea that for some reason pagans are immoral or something for having sex is just another way of Shock to perpetuate his bigotry, and for people who hang out with Shock to feel better about themselves and perpetuate their bigotry. See, they have this whole closed-off, exclusivist idea of Christianity that they need to be in this small little exclusive God's chosen people club in order to be considered special. Well, let me tell you that most of the people who Shock hangs out with aren't Jewish, so you're not considered to be God's chosen people. I'm sorry, but you're not special. I think that the problem with people like Shaka now is that he's given too much credit. And this, I'm not giving him any credit at all. In fact, if anything, I've proven him to be a fake and a liar, as many others have. But I would say, Shock, if you really are a Christian, Jesus said that you should challenge people who challenge your faith. And if that's the case, I challenge you, Shock, to a debate. Either on Stick'em or some other place, but it has to be a live debate, and I will own you. We'll figure out the details of the debate, but I'll make sure that it's fair. And you can bring your friends, and I'll bring mine. But if you really do want to challenge and win souls, so to speak, then you'll do the debate. Otherwise, it's obvious that you're just a piece of shit, and you're a bigot, and that you don't really care about Christianity. You just want to look down on people.